Hello there, my very good friends. On today's wrestling news, WWE NXT beats AEW Dynamite.
We've got fascinating backstage details from this week's WWE NXT.
Backstage update on WWE Survivor Series plans.
And two wrestlers quietly leave AEW.
I'm Andy.
I'm Michael.
And we are the oldest men alive. This is the news. Let's kick this thing off by, we can't really do anything else apart from talk about ratings, which I know isn't everyone's cup of tea, but, we usually save these stories for when it's a notable event. All-time lows, all-time highs. One show beating the other on the same night.
It doesn't come around much anymore, does it?
It's a bit of fun. Everyone loves numbers. NXT smoked Dynamite in a lot of ways here, which I think everyone on this channel saw coming, and I assume a lot of you did as well. Look, John Cena was on the show, come on. So it was a star-studded episode of NXT, of course, and we look at these numbers here, we break them down, P18 to 49, which is how these shows are ranked. Remember, 0.3 for NXT, which is up from 0.22, so it's a big increase from the previous week. AEW, meanwhile, 0.26. So AEW outdone in that metric by 0.4. AEW was down on the previous week, but only by 0.2. So not like a huge drop-off or anything, but clearly impacted by the competition. In terms of overall viewership, NXT hit 921,000 across its 2 hours, whereas Dynamite hit only 609,000. That's the bigger discrepancy of the two, obviously, and it's likely owing to NXT's audience skewing a bit older, which is why there's a bigger difference between overall viewership than there is compared to the 18 to 49. This is actually NXT's best viewership since November 2019 and the fourth highest in the show's history. Both promotions obviously loaded up. WWE had the bigger cards to play. It doesn't get much bigger than John Cena, The Undertaker, and Cody Rhodes. All due respect to Adam Copeland. But Cena, Rhodes, Paul Heyman, Asuka, they were advertised for the show. The Undertaker was not advertised, but if they did the gong in the video and then he didn't show up, that would have been a bit whack.
What would that have been about?
Yeah, that was effectively guaranteed. LA Knight showed up as well. He wasn't advertised, but he did show up. AEW, they put a bunch of stars on their card as well. Obviously Copeland in the main event. Moxley was going to be on the card until they learned that he couldn't compete on the day of the show, which is a bit of a pain in the ass, I'm sure. Not that I don't think he would have won the war for them or anything. Who else was on that show? Orange Cassidy, other proving
Jay White, Hangman Page, Danielson,
yeah,
all their top slate.
Forgot Bryan Danielson.
A guy like Swerve, not yet a proven draw, but a guy that is a high-profile guy in AEW.
A fun and good man.
Yeah.
So there you go. Look, I've sat here for about a month and said that NXT was going to smoke Dynamite, and they have. So there you go.
Yeah, I think the gap was maybe in viewership was a touch wider than a lot of people would have expected. Typically, when AEW has moved nights, the bulk of the viewership appears to have travelled, and in this case, if they have travelled, they've maybe travelled to NXT to have a look.
The opposite is usually true with Dynamite. Like, a change in circumstances usually impacts it pretty heavily.
Well, I'm comparing this, I suppose, to last year. The gap was narrow, obviously, between AEW and NXT, which makes me a little bit sad as somebody that watches NXT religiously. I'd have kind of liked to have seen what they would have done with a normal NXT.
Yeah.
I don't think they would have won, and if they would have won, it wouldn't have been by a margin like this, and they probably would have lost the demo, but I would have been curious to watch it. I get why WWE did this, I do. I know the kind of consensus take is generally based on the original Wednesday Night Wars, which was very petty gamesmanship from WWE over and over and over again, but this was AEW moving to NXT's night. It was a worthwhile win for that NXT show to claim. I think it helps kind of keep that perception going that there's a bit of momentum on NXT. It's probably good for the morale of the roster to not lose a week as soon as there's another show on their night. So I'm not really sure what we've learned from all of this, other than I think the patter was fantastic. I would love, in a year's time, if and when this happens again, and we can expect it to, I would love to see the weekly shows go up against each other, and let's see if NXT's still growing gradually, minutely as it is. I'd love to see its metal tested on a normal week.
You think they'll be John Cena every week if they do that?
I don't want him. I want hashtag my NXT back next week, because this week, this kind of leads us quite nicely into what NXT was being reported as backstage, actually at the Performance Centre. Bodyslam.net came through with the story that it was internally being labelled as NXTMania. Look, you can see why. I'm sure the big stars only had a piece of A4 paper to profoundly point at rather than a big sign. But
look at the run sheet.
Yeah. So obviously that's you can imagine why with all the stars that Murray's listed there. And it was also mentioned as well that scenes were, quote, hectic, There was a little bit of chaos as there was like lots of plans being changed, but morale was very good, and people inside it said that the guest names especially came off, quote, amazingly, which I wouldn't disagree with completely. I would have preferred a bit more interaction with, other than Cody, who I thought was great, like a bit more integration with the roster might have been good. There was a scene where the entire women's division lined up to thank Asuka for existing, which I didn't think.
And then Tiffany Stratton told her to piss off.
And unsurprisingly, that was the best bit of it, you know? Like, could have done with a bit more of that, but all noises point to this being a fun night for most people involved. The NXTMania thing, you can imagine everybody was just, you know, a bit of tongue-in-cheek. Like, you'd be stupid not to own that. It's friggin' John Cena and The Undertaker and co. on the developmental brand.
Two of the biggest stars in the company's history.
You're a Roman and a Brock shot of the full top line, aren't you?
Yeah, 100%. And even Roman Reigns was referred to on telephone, I guess.
Yeah,
let's call him a draw for that. Why not?
Checking in on the Rock's daughter if Heyman was trying to recruit him.
As you do. Heyman was on the drive. Grey hair Heyman. I quite enjoy his grey hair era.
I like personally.
It, it's a weird ass show. It's a weird ass week. They wanted to win, so they brought in the big guns, and they did win. I think what I've learned from this is that John Cena and Cody Rhodes and all these people are draws, obviously. I mean, I knew that already, so I haven't really learned that. But like on a 1 week basis, English language is not my strong thing today. On a 1 week basis, it doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot for either show. It's a nice feather in the cap of NXT for sure. And look, if I was like NXT personnel, I'd be trumpeting this all week
too, right,
or all month. I'd be like, beat you.
I think that's it.
I'd be really petty and horrible.
I think for Shawn Michaels, he's got a roster that, fair enough, didn't get much play this week, but want to be thought. Now they can say, we're on the big brand, we're on NXT. We're like years of pelters that this group of wrestlers has taken for NXT, kind of being a joke to a lot of people. He's still fighting for this title, to paraphrase Kevin Keegan having a breakdown on Sky Sports. So I think they get this week, and then it's probably business as usual next week.
And as for Tony Khan and AEW, if any positive was to come out of this for them, they would look at it and go, maybe we need to change a few things up, step a few. Like, I don't think did not give AEW a chance in hell of beating NXT as soon as the names Cody Rhodes and John Cena came out of various advertisement videos' mouths. He was not going to win this show. He could have announced Mercedes Moné, Goldberg, name wrestlers that are free agents. He could have announced all these people and he would have still lost. It's John Cena, for God's sake. You're not outdoing that 0.3 rating when John Cena's on the show.
And then now, guys, as well, it's not like The Undertaker never shows up anymore, but Cody and Cena are on Raw and SmackDown right now, so it's not even that you're just dusting them off, is it? You know,
it's big people, big names. People tune in.
I'm all for Tony Khan posting through it on X, by the way. More and more of that. Let's keep that rolling.
Keep it going,
I want to be checking them likes every day. What have you got?
I'm taking a few days off from X for that reason, but I kind of like the public pettiness.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
The poster never dies, man. Right. Got an update on Survivor Series. Do you want to know what that update is from Fightful Select? There is War Games in it. So everyone, I think, expected this. They've not formally announced any matches or anything like that, but Fightful Select reporting that War Games is in plans to return for Survivor Series, which is at the end of next month in Chicago. A men's match is seemingly part of the plans. There's no word on a women's match yet. That doesn't necessarily mean it won't happen. However, this would be the second. We should know as well, the Judgment Day have been linked to all of this. Presumably it would be Finn, Damien, JD McDonough and Dominic Mysterio against 4 babyfaces. I mean, the direction for that it seems quite clear on TV at the moment. You can fill in the babyface names yourself. Second year in a row on the main roster. Last year, obviously, we had the 2 matches bookending the show. WWE has been using the War Games stipulation since 2017. It was initially brought back for NXT. Previously, it kind of died off after WCW kind of went the way of the dodo. But yeah, WWE owns the name to it, so they started using it again. The WWE versions typically a very different beast to like the classic WCW versions, which were more. But I mean, it's probably more a product of the era than anything else. Like if you go back and watch like 1992, for example, it's more of a story-driven thing. It's more of like an intense thing, visceral hatred between two people. I always go back to the classic opening sequence between Steve Austin and channel favourite Barry Windham.
Well, they'd rode up and down the roads together.
Yeah. Making towns and
eating raw potatoes.
Yeah, that's how it goes. And doing ups and downs.
That's right. Towns and ups and downs.
Simon Miller, good friends with Barry Windham and Steve Austin.
I can't believe he's a host on this channel, Barry Windham. Shout out.
Barry Windham. But yeah, it's a different beast in WWE. Typically, these are more spot-heavy, kind of TikTok clip kind of matches where it's like pow, 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 pow. Sometimes maybe, in the words of Reno Guttuso, sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe rarely to be fair. The exception I always go to is the Dakota Kai turn match.
Oh yeah, I was in the building, brother.
Yeah, I think that's the best one WWE have done. Like, typically these matches are a bit less on the story and a bit more on the... But that's okay, because people like them.
Yeah, right. So, like, this match, I don't know if it scans as a hot take or anything. I always think War Games is a way better match in anticipation than execution.
Oh, yeah, there's like 3 classic War Games matches.
That's it. I would even
history.
include the old ones. There's more bad than good, but the build has like this like transformative effect on you where it kind of hypnotizes you. You're thinking, all these people in 2 cages. You can't help but get hyped, and then you're watching it and you're like, right, get to the match beyond. Can we get this moving now, you know? Yeah, like on terms of 2023s, WWE have been pointing towards this for months. They've done like loads of these startups. Fastlane looked like it was going to have a 4-on-4 generic tag before injuries seemed to get in the way and they pivoted to the tag matches. So I could well see the 4-on-4. I like the 4-on-4 with the Judgment Day, but then the 5th men on each side being Jimmy and Jey Uso to fold in this Bloodline Judgment Day union of baddies. The SmackDown standoff last week was white hot in the building. It was proper, remember Nexus Team WWE camera shaking stuff. There's like all the goodies, all the baddies. Like they have lined up War Games quite well. Women's division less so, but to be fair to her, Nia Jax is kind of causing chaos.
Yeah,
you could see assault lines building around these mass brawls you're having. Around that, you know, you got Damage Couture as a stable. You could do a cross-brand deal. Like they'll force it through. I think you'll get one of each, even if maybe the booking has been a little bit iffy. Rhea Ripley kicks ass in War Games matches. She is the woman designed for those matches, like especially in the holding pens. They hold him in cages before they even let him out. She's great in that.
Here comes the Eradicator.
Yeah. And Survivor Series just got substantially worse yesterday, so you need 2 War Games matches. Anyway, moving on to... Moving on to AEW. Speaking of our wrestlers that are frustratingly quietly disappearing from our screens, there's 2 more that have quietly left AEW. Zach Clayton and VSK have both left in the last week. WrestleZone's Bill Pritchard came through with the news on Zach Clayton specifically, saying that he was obviously taken from the roster page, which, you know, when we say quietly, that's what we mean, I guess. People see out their deals and then are, you know, not released as such, but they just see out their contracts. WrestleZone confirmed that as well. Mike Johnson from PW Insider doubled down on that and noted that the contract had expired, hadn't been renewed. There's no bad blood and they could work together in the future. Clayton, for those that might not have seen him, and you know would be forgiven for that, spent most of his time on Dark, a little bit on Rampage, and on Ring of Honor. He did lose to Hook in 14 seconds last year when obviously Hook was just like rampaging through people. But he was mainly figured on Ring of Honor towards the end of his run. And VSK, also from PW Insider, his release was confirmed, which he then backed up on Twitter. He was Jeeves K in the Trustbusters group, RIP, because pretty much all of them have gone off in their various directions, and he confirmed this himself. He tweeted saying, quote, "Don't expect a Notes app post. Jeeves is dead, let's have some fun." So again, no bad blood, but kind of the implication that he's glad to see the back of that specific character. The Trustbusters never really quite found their voice.
It didn't really work.
No.
VSK, I looked at his cage match. He'd wrestled more on the indies than in AEW / Ring of Honor. I know he was like a supplementary character in the Trustbusters, but I think that was quite interesting to see. All due respect to Zach Clayton, I had honestly forgotten he was in the company.
We got a massive roster. This is going to happen.
Yeah, purely because he hadn't been on like Rampage or Dynamite or whatever in ages and ages and ages. He had that brief feud with Hook. I remember the promo he cut and when he came out and he was announced as a signing. Reality TV show background, I believe he's either is or was in a relationship with JWoww from Jersey Shore.
He's a handsome fella.
He is a good-looking man. So is VSK, to be fair.
Yeah.
This is how it should work. You know, you get
let's objectify them. You go there and be good-looking guys.
The good-looking guys.
Yeah.
Shouts to Pro Wrestling Noah. Yeah, it's awesome. But no, I think that this is really how it should work. If you get to, the one thing I really enjoy about AEW from employee standpoint, and you can criticize lots, like of course, but is that they don't just cut people in the middle of their deals. if you come to the end of the deal and it's maybe not worked out as either of you had hoped, okay, let's part ways.
All of wrestling should work this way.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. High profile one recently would be Jade Cargill. She turned down an extension and she left at the end of her contract. So, hey, look, it's the way it should work. And best of luck to both gentlemen in wherever the heck they go next. I imagine VSK will probably be pretty active on the indies as he was. And
you really don't want to say the words future endeavours because WWE killed that forever, didn't they? It's awful. Like, it's got all these connotations, but you do mean it. Good luck. Good luck doing whatever you want to do.
Wrestling, getting wrestlers. Right, we got some questions here. They have come through. YouTube community, we'll be getting them from there tomorrow as well. So that's where you want to go. Look for the thread. It's a couple of posts down, but it's not hard to find. Darren has been on, who wants to know, good morning, gents. As NXT has had top roster guys on its show lately, which has been very successful. Becky Lynch, the Judgment Day is working out. Who on the main roster should go to NXT permanently as they aren't making it on the main roster? Could be anyone. Who do you reckon?
Permanently changes the conversation, doesn't it, rather than guest spots. I tell you who could do with it right now is Raquel Rodriguez. Had a great run on NXT, was pushed in the very traditional way, starting a tag team, shine, win the title, move up. There was nothing fundamentally wrong with it, but then I think on the main roster those little fleeting glances have been all too fleeting. She's now lost big matches to Rhea Ripley. She's been kind of overwhelmed by Nia Jax, even though that'll probably continue on. And I just think she, for somebody with her size and her definite upside, I think she's now bound to be getting lost in the shuffle. Triple H has a lot left to prove in terms of his booking of the women's division. I think it's the one glaring hole. If you look at the last sort of 18 months he's had the book, he's not really done right by the women. And you know, you can have your title shot, and Raquel had it at Payback, didn't go particularly well. And when you're in there with Rhea Ripley, like, it wasn't awful, but you become the reason because she's stacked up the evidence this year that she's a massive star. Raquel's great. There's like I say, an enormous upside there, but she could be somebody that could dominate on that division. Like, that main roster ages these wrestlers by orders of magnitude because you see them every single week. She feels like a 10-year pro when she's been at it a couple of years, you know, like, so there's absolutely no harm. And I think it's not as much of a backstep either. You're still on television, you're seen as a veteran presence. You know, Apollo Crews had a great run in NXT. There are ways to do this right, and I think she could benefit from a bit of a change of scenery.
Raquel really plateaued on the main roster recently, along with my pick, Roman Reigns. I just think he should go back, and you know, he's never on TV. It's a disgrace.
Yeah. Joe Gacy is going to put together a new stable. He's like, I like your bloodline, but what do you think of family trees?
Oh God!
And it's a tree.
It's the tree.
Yeah.
We are the tree. Our next question comes from Edwin Rosenquist, who would like to know. Hi guys, have you watched the trailer to the movie The Iron Claw, the movie about the Von Erich family? Yeah, I watched it yesterday. I think it looks absolutely brilliant.
It kicks ass. If you're a fan of The Bear, and if not, why not? Watch The Bear. We love The Bear here at WhatCulture.
If you like bears, I will kill you.
But Calm from The Bear, even more jacked up than he already was.
Yeah, he's a beast.
So I hadn't seen this question, and the first thing I said after I'd seen the trailer to you was, I want to sit down with my wife and maybe other loved ones, watch this film, and not tell them the story of the Von Erichs. Like, that is a way, if you're watching it, you know, you're a wrestling fan, I'm assuming you're watching this, you understand the tragedy of it all. Don't let them know, because this is a story that we know as a community could have been on the silver screen years ago. This has been a story that's been waiting to be told. And I think there'll be so many people that go to the cinema thinking this is going to be some sort of, you know, field of dreams, sporting franchise, everything turns out in the end type deal. They're going to see the Sportatorium in lights and go, wow, like, I wonder when the wrestler's going to win the belt, and you're like, oh, you don't know what's coming. Like, that drama's going to be out the ass. I can't wait for this. I can't wait for it.
It's the most impossibly sad story ever. It looks beautifully shot and presented. Like, it looks like an 80s wrestling production, but with modern bells and whistles, like clarity and stuff. Yeah, I think it looks absolutely fantastic. I have very high hopes. I saw Marshall Von Erich tweeting that there's probably going to be like some inaccuracies in there, which you know is understandable. Obviously, you know, they're going to shoot for Hollywood to a certain degree, and we'll see what happens. But I think it looks really, really good, and I'm glad that I just like seeing the Von Erich name kind of in the public light in a positive way. I know it's a desperately sad story, but that family has endured so much hardship over the years in wrestling. Just anything that kind of raises their profile a bit, to me, is Like Kevin probably doesn't want that hanging out in Hawaii. Chilling.
Yeah, I think when we all saw Darkseid, and like you can't get a happy ending, but Kevin's was at least this kind of feeling of some inner peace, and how that man has shoulders that broad, I'll never know. But what I think the Von Erich, I understand the nervousness around the Von Erich family, and you would feel that way if you were in their position.
Definitely.
But I think long term,
story.
yeah, like the way this film plays, I think could have a massive impact on their legacy to a section of fans that maybe grew up too late to really see them in their pomp, or didn't watch the documentaries that came out, The Heroes of World Class, and the WWE one that was like the sister piece to it. Like, this film is another generation of fans that could see the Von Erichs for what they are, and I think this is a statue enhancing thing long term. Like, good films made about pro wrestling are good for pro wrestling. It's just sometimes hard to see that until you get the reaction.
Definitely.
You know?
Definitely.
Hope it goes well. I really do.
Our final question of the day comes from William Sanders, who would like to know, to avoid a Cody versus LA Knight situation in the Royal Rumble, do you guys see LA Knight possibly challenging Roman for the title that night instead of at the Rumble? Also, I'm calling it now, we get a mirror image of last year's Rumble with Cody and Gunther at the end, but Cody starting at number 1 and Gunther at 30 Rumble. What do you think?
Both of those things, and if you want to listen to our SmackDown review and preview podcasts, or indeed see us live, right there, actually, we talk about this one all the time. We've been kind of fantasy booking LA Knight and Roman Reigns for the Rumble for quite a while, not least because we think WWE is booking that. They put LA Knight in with Paul Heyman sort of several weeks ago, and then of course he picked up a victory alongside John Cena against Jimmy and Solo. Roman Reigns returns on SmackDown this week, and he might not acknowledge LA Knight tonight, but he'll be none too pleased that Knight's been mixing in. It's a perfect way to that point to kind of stop there being any concern about Cody Rhodes getting booed or any kind of protest. You don't want to have your two top baby faces competing with one another. You've got to obscure that. Love the Cody Gunther booking. Nobody cared last year because it was just nice to see Cody back, but it was a bit arse about tit that Gunther the heel went the distance and Cody kind of like snuck in there and got the win. Cody finishing the story the right way, second time around, I think is a way that you buy that goodwill with people for him losing last year. And bang up for both these things. It's predictable, but sometimes good wrestling should be. Booking is supposed to light the way. Like, surprises are great, but you're supposed to make plans.
I've got a slight twist to that. I do agree Cody should come in at 1 and Gunther should come in at number 30, but the added twist is that Nia Jax injures Cody on the way to the ring and he gets thrown out at number 2. So
finally somebody was brave enough to say it.
Yeah, there you go. See you later.